I used to believe that love was stronger than money, stronger than status, stronger than the weight of the world pressing against two people trying to build a future together. But I was wrong. Very wrong. Before everything changed, I was just an ordinary man with an extraordinary dream. I worked long nights in a tiny room with a flickering bulb, building a startup no one believed in. Everyone said it would fail. Everyone said I should give up. Everyone except her. Or at least, that's what I thought. Her name was Alina, the woman whose smile used to feel like sunrise, and whose words could turn my darkest day into something bearable. We had nothing, but somehow, in those days, nothing still felt like everything. We used to sit on the rooftop of my shabby apartment, legs dangling over the edge, watching the city lights below. We talked about our future, our imaginary home, our imaginary vacations, and our imaginary successes. I remember telling her, "One day, I'll give you the life you deserve." And she would always respond, "I don't need luxury. I just need you." Those words, I held on to them like they were sacred. But I didn't know that some people love the idea of loyalty, until reality tempts them. Back then, I wasn't enough. Not in her eyes, though she never said it out loud. But you can feel it when someone starts slipping away. It's in their silence, their distracted smiles, their suddenly busy schedules, the way they stop saying we and start saying I. At first, the changes were small. She used to message me every hour. Suddenly it became every few. She used to pick up my calls immediately. Suddenly she needed a minute. She used to meet me after work even if she was tired. Suddenly she was too exhausted, almost every day. I told myself she was stressed. I told myself she needed space. I told myself everything was fine. But deep down, I felt the storm long before it arrived. Then came the day everything collapsed. It was a Friday evening. I remember standing outside her office with a small bouquet, white lilies, her favorite. I wanted to surprise her. I wanted to celebrate the tiny milestone I had reached that day. My startup had secured a small investment. It wasn't much, but it was a start. It was hope, and I wanted to share that hope with her. But when the office doors opened, she didn't come out alone. She walked out with a man whose presence screamed wealth from a mile away. The suit, the watch, the car waiting behind him, the way people parted for him like he was someone untouchable, and the way she looked at him. She never looked at me that way, not even on our best days. I stood frozen, hidden behind a pillar as they talked. Or rather, he talked, and she laughed. Not the polite office laugh, not the nervous laugh, but the laugh she once reserved for me, the one that made me feel like the luckiest man alive. My heart sank, but I told myself, maybe it's just work. Maybe I'm imagining things. Maybe it's innocent. But then he touched her back, gently, confidently, as if she already belonged to him. And she didn't push him away. She didn't even look uncomfortable. She looked chosen. I stepped back, my hands trembling around the bouquet. The lilies suddenly felt heavy, useless, childish. And then my phone buzzed. It was her. A message. Just 3 words. We need space. Space. That's what people ask for when they already know where they want to go next. I didn't reply. I couldn't. The next day, her social media told me everything she never had the courage to say. Photos, smiles, expensive restaurants, private jet interiors, champagne, her hand resting on the same man's arm. Just like that, I went from being her future to being a forgotten chapter. The worst part wasn't losing her. It was realizing she didn't hesitate, not even for a second, while I was scraping together a life for us. She was upgrading herself into another world, a world I could never compete with at the time. People say heartbreak feels like drowning, but for me, it felt like burning. Silently, internally, with no one even noticing. Days blurred into nights, nights into weeks. I couldn't eat. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't think about anything except the same question looping through my mind. Was I ever enough? I tried to throw away the memories, but memories don't ask for permission. They stay. They haunt. They ache. I kept replaying our last moments. Her half smiles, her cold hugs, her fading warmth. And every time I replayed them, the truth became sharper. She left not because she didn't love me. She left because she loved wealth more. Because I wasn't good enough for her future. Because in her eyes, I was replaceable. Little did she know, life is a strange way of rewarding those who bleed for their dreams, and punishing those who abandon loyalty for luxury. Little did she know, the man she traded for a billionaire was about to become one himself. But that part of the story comes later. For now, all you need to know is this. Her betrayal didn't just break me. It awakened a version of me I never knew existed. A version that refused to be worthless. A version that would rise higher than she could ever imagine. And one day, fate would bring her back into my life. Not as my lover, not as my equal, but as something she never expected. My employee. And that is where everything truly begins. After she left, the world felt colder, quieter, almost hostile, as if it wanted to remind me of everything I lacked. But heartbreak does something strange to a person. It either destroys you or forges you. At first, I thought it had destroyed me. My days became a blur of silence. No motivation, no purpose, just the constant ache of being abandoned for someone wealthier, stronger, more powerful. I would stare at my computer screen for hours, trying to work on my startup, the dream that once kept me alive. But every line of code, every idea, every plan felt meaningless. What was the point of building a future if the person I was building it for had already found a better one? But rock bottom has a way of giving you two choices. Stay broken, or get up. One morning, after another sleepless night, I looked at myself in the mirror. My eyes were hollow, my hair messy, my shoulders bent under the weight of humiliation. And I heard her voice in my mind, laughing with that billionaire. I pictured the way she looked at him, like he was everything she ever wanted. That image burned me. It scorched the last piece of weakness left inside me. And something snapped. Not in anger, not in revenge, but in clarity. I whispered to my reflection, never again. Never again will I be someone's second choice. That was a moment I decided to rebuild myself, even if it killed me. The next day, I shut myself inside my tiny room with a notebook, my laptop, and nothing else. I wrote down every idea I'd ever abandoned, every plan I'd stopped halfway. My startup wasn't just a dream anymore. It was my lifeline. I gave myself a rule. 4 weeks, I hardly slept more than 4 hours a night. I ate on the go, worked like a machine, and poured everything I had into my project. Friends called. I ignored them. My family worried. I told them I was fine. I wasn't fine, but I was focused. I studied day and night, business strategies, global markets, psychology, leadership, coding, marketing, finance. Every time my eyes burned, I reminded myself, she chose someone better, so I would become someone impossible to compare. I stopped chasing success for her and started chasing it for myself. Slowly, painfully, the pieces began falling into place. 3 months later, something miraculous happened. One of my prototypes, something everyone once called a waste of time, finally worked. Not perfectly, but enough to attract attention. A small investor saw potential. Then another. Then another. Within a year, my startup went from a one-man dream to a company with 10 employees and clients lining up from different cities. But success is addictive. Once you taste it, you don't stop. I pushed harder. I expanded my team, hired specialists, upgraded our technology, and created a product that didn't just enter the market. It disrupted it. People who never returned my emails now called me for meetings. Doors that once stayed shut suddenly opened. And every time I signed a deal, every time someone praised my innovation, every time I proved someone wrong, I felt myself rising. Not out of ego, not out of pride, but out of the ashes of who I used to be. The version of me that cried over a lost relationship. He was gone. In his place stood someone new. Sharper, stronger, unstoppable. Within 2 years, my company wasn't just successful. It was dominating. Investors from abroad flew in to shake my hand. Tech magazines began featuring me as the next big visionary. My office expanded from a single room to 3 floors in a high-rise building. But the real turning point came when a major corporation offered to partner with us. Their involvement multiplied our value overnight. The media called it a miracle, but I knew it wasn't. It was a result of relentless nights, broken dreams, and a will forged from heartbreak. And then, it finally happened. The announcement came during a conference. My company had officially entered the global market. Our valuation crossed a number I never imagined possible. Suddenly, I wasn't just successful. I wasn't just wealthy. I was a billionaire. The same status she once chased, the same world she chose over me, was now the world I belonged to. Ironically, I didn't feel the rush I thought I would. No celebration, no champagne, no dramatic moment of victory. Just calm, quiet, a strange, peaceful certainty. Because deep inside, I knew this wasn't about proving her wrong anymore. It was about proving myself right. But fate is playful. It likes unfinished stories. It loves irony. And it wasn't done with mine. It happened on a Wednesday afternoon. My assistant knocked on my office door, holding a file. "So, we've finalized the hiring list for the new department," she said. "These are the shortlisted applicants for personal assistant positions. You can review and approve the final names." I nodded casually, flipping through the papers, until I saw a familiar name. Her name, Alina. At first, I thought I was hallucinating. Maybe lack of sleep, maybe stress. But I blinked, and it was still there. Her name, her resume, her application. The same woman who left me for a billionaire was now applying for a job in my company. My company. The irony was almost laughable. I leaned back in my chair, a slow breath escaping my lips. The universe didn't just turn the tables. It flipped them upside down. I didn't call her. I didn't confront her. I didn't feel anger or satisfaction. I felt nothing. Nothing except a quiet, controlled power. I circled her name, approved it, and wrote one note. Because the story wasn't finished. Not yet. She had replaced me with a billionaire once. Now fate had brought her back, to work under me. Her billionaire boss. The man she never saw coming. And the next chapter would change everything. The morning she was supposed to join the company, I arrived earlier than usual. Not because I wanted to see her, but because I needed to make sure I was ready. I wasn't the same man she walked away from years ago. But the memories, they still lived somewhere deep inside me, buried under success, ambition, and time. My office was silent. The city skyline glowed through the glass walls, tall buildings shimmering like they were welcoming a new chapter. But beneath that calm, I could feel something stirring. Not fear, not longing, just anticipation. Life had brought her back to my doorstep. Not as a lover, but as an employee. My employee. And I wondered whether she felt the same tension trembling in the air. Whether she knew what awaited her behind those doors. At exactly 9 a.m., I heard footsteps in the hallway. Soft, nervous, hesitant. My current assistant knocked and peeked inside. "Sir, the new hire is here." I nodded. "Send her in." The door opened slowly, and she walked in. Alina, the woman who once held my heart like it was something fragile, now walked into my office like she was entering a courtroom, already aware of her sentence. For a moment, time felt still. She hadn't changed much. The same eyes, the same soft features, the same way she carried herself. But there was something different too. She no longer had that effortless confidence. Her smile wasn't bright. Her posture wasn't proud. It was as if life had carved something out of her, something she once thought she'd gained by leaving me. Her eyes lifted. The moment she saw me, really saw me, her breath caught. Shock first, then disbelief, then something deeper. Regret. She whispered, her voice trembling. I leaned back slightly in my chair and kept my tone calm, collected, almost cold. "Welcome to the team, Alina." Her lips parted in confusion. She tried to speak, then stopped. She looked around my office. The awards, the skyline view, the luxury interior. It took her a moment to process it all. I gave her that moment, because watching her realize who I had become, with a moment fate had written with exquisite precision. She sat down slowly, still shaken. I didn't know this was your company, she said. Most people don't, I replied calmly. I prefer to let the work speak. She swallowed hard, looking down at her hands. Her fingers trembled. She tried to hide it, but I noticed. Of course, I noticed. The silence between us was heavy, not with romance, but with the weight of everything unsaid. Finally, she spoke again. If you want me to leave, I understand. I don't, I cut in, my voice steady. This is a workplace. You're here because you qualify, not because of our past. That wasn't a lie. I meant it, but it also wasn't the whole truth. She nodded slowly, as if trying to understand this version of me, the version she never expected me to become. I handed her a folder. These are your tasks for this week. You'll be assisting me directly. Her eyes widened. Directly? With you? Yes, I said simply. Is that a problem? And no, she whispered, though it clearly was. For the first time, she wasn't the one in control. She wasn't the one with choices or leverage. She wasn't the one being chased. Now, she worked in the world she once believed I could never belong to. Over the next few days, she tried. She tried to be professional, tried to hold herself together, tried to hide her emotions. But working with me was a reminder of everything she'd lost. Every time she saw my success, every time she heard an investor praise my mind, every time she watched employees admire me, she felt the weight of her decisions crushing her. I never brought up the past. I never asked why she left. I never showed anger. And that silence hurt her more than words ever could. She wanted me to react, to shout, to blame her, to accuse her. But I didn't, because she didn't deserve my emotions anymore. One afternoon, as she stood beside my desk, explaining a report, her voice cracked slightly. She paused, took a breath, and tried to continue. But her eyes, they told a different story. She was breaking, quietly, silently, the same way I once did. Life really does balance everything out. A week later, I called her into my office. She came in nervously, clutching her notepad. You asked for me, sir? Yes, I said, gesturing for her to sit. We need to talk about your performance so far. Her face paled, not because she expected praise, but because she feared disappointment. Your work has been good, I said, but you're distracted, unfocused, emotional. Her eyes lowered. I'm trying. I know, I said. But personal emotions can't interfere with professional responsibilities. The irony of those words wasn't lost on her. She looked at me, and for the first time, she let the truth slip out. I didn't think I would ever face you again. I remained silent. I didn't think I would see you like this, she continued. Successful, powerful, respected, everything you are now. I should have believed in you. Her voice cracked. I was stupid. I was blind, and I can't undo what I did. For a moment, the room felt smaller. Her confession hung in the air, raw and unfiltered. But I didn't say what she wanted to hear. Instead, I calmly replied, You don't have to undo anything. Actions have consequences. You made your choice. I made mine. Her eyes glistened, not with anger, but with regret so deep it almost softened me. Almost. As she stood to leave, she hesitated at the door. Is it difficult for you, working with me? She asked softly. I met her gaze. No, I said, because that was the truth. I moved on with my life. You're just another employee now. She flinched slightly, as if the words cut deeper than any insult. And then she whispered something barely audible. I wish I had stayed. For a moment, just a fraction of a second, the old wound twinged inside me. But unlike her, I had healed. It doesn't matter anymore, I said simply. Focus on your work. That's all I expect from you. She nodded, defeated, and walked out slowly. But as I watched her leave, I realized something. She wasn't just working for me. She was trapped in the consequences of her own choices. She couldn't escape the very thing she once ran from. And that was the true power shift. Because now, she was in a world I built with the pain she gave me. Working with me became her silent punishment. Not because I treated her harshly, but because I didn't. I treated her with the same cold professionalism. I gave every employee no special attention, no personal conversations, no fragments of the man she once knew. That absence hurt her more than anger ever could. Every day she walked into the office, knowing she would stand beside the man she once abandoned. Yet now, she was nothing more than an assistant in his world. The irony wasn't lost on her, and it certainly wasn't lost on me. Our days were a cycle of quiet tension. I would assign tasks. She would complete them. I would give feedback. She would nod silently. She watched me lead board meetings, negotiate million-dollar deals, and speak with a confidence she had never seen in me before. Every word that left my mouth reminded her of the man I had become, a man she didn't stay long enough to witness. And sometimes, when she thought I wasn't looking, her eyes softened with something painful, regret mixed with longing. But feelings didn't matter here. Not anymore. She wasn't a part of my world. She was simply working inside it. One afternoon, we attended a high-level conference. Top executives, CEOs, investors, and partners from around the globe. It was an event where every person carried status like a crown. And she watched, from behind me, carrying my files and notes. She once chased this world. Now she wasn't in it. She was serving it. During a break, a group of executives approached me. "Your assistant is new," one said casually. "She seems nervous," another remarked. They didn't mean harm. They were simply observing. But I saw the way her face fell. Once, she used to be the woman in heels walking beside a billionaire. Now she was the employee standing behind one. The shift of power was no longer subtle. It was undeniable. After the conference, I returned to the office. Late evening sunlight slanted through the windows as she placed documents on my desk. As she stood there, I noticed her hands shaking slightly. She turned to leave, but I stopped her. "Close the door," I said. She did, nervously. A silence settled between us. Heavy, intense, full of words neither of us had spoken. "You've been distracted all day," I said calmly. "I'm trying," she started. "Trying isn't enough," I cut in. "Not here." She lowered her eyes. "It won't happen again," she whispered. But something in her tone was wrong. Not emotional, broken. And for the first time since she returned, I allowed myself to look at her fully. Her eyes were tired, her posture tense, her confidence cracked. I could see she was carrying something heavy, something she didn't know how to put down. Finally, she exhaled deeply. "Why are you like this with me?" she asked, barely above a whisper. "You're kind to everyone else. You joke with them. You talk to them. But with me, you're a stranger." I paused. "Because," I said slowly, "you became a stranger long before I did." Her breath caught. "You walked out of my life," I continued softly. "I didn't push you away. I didn't replace you. I didn't stop loving you." I held her gaze. "But you made me irrelevant." Her eyes filled, and she blinked quickly, trying not to break. "I didn't know who you would become," she whispered. "I didn't need you to know," I replied. "I needed you to stay." Those words struck her harder than any anger could. And in that moment, she finally broke. Tears slipped down her cheeks. Quiet, shameful, uncontrollable. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I made the worst mistake of my life." I didn't move. I didn't comfort her. I didn't reach out. Because her apology wasn't for me. It was for the version of herself she destroyed. After a long moment, she wiped her tears. "You must hate me," she said softly. "I don't," I replied truthfully. "Hate takes energy. You're not worth that kind of effort anymore." She flinched, and her voice cracked. "Do you still feel anything for me?" "No," I said calmly. "Not the way I used to." She nodded slowly. She had expected the answer, but hearing it hurt her more than she was prepared for. Because she didn't just lose me years ago. She was losing the person I had become. And she knew it. After that conversation, she changed. She worked harder, tried not to look at me with the eyes of someone missing something they could never get back. But her silence spoke louder. There were moments she stayed late just to finish tasks faster, as if proving her worth now mattered when it once never did. There were moments she watched me talk to other employees, and I could feel her wondering what it would have been like to stand beside me, not behind me. There were moments she tried to smile at me, small, hopeful smiles, and I didn't return them, not out of cruelty, but because I was no longer the man who lived for her smile. The power between us had shifted, and there was no going back. Not for her, not for us, not for the story we once had. One night, after everyone had left, she approached my office door quietly. I looked up as she stepped inside. "I need to say something," she said, voice trembling. I waited. "You're everything I ever wanted," she whispered, "and everything I threw away." Her voice cracked. "I don't want your forgiveness. I don't even want you back. I just want you to know I see it now. I see what I lost." I stood up slowly, walked past her, and stopped by the door. "Go home, Alina," I said softly. "You're tired." She searched my face for something. Hope, maybe, a spark of the past, anything. But there was nothing left. She left the office with tears in her eyes, and I closed the door behind her. For her, that moment was the point of no return. And for me, it was the final confirmation. She wasn't the woman I once loved, and I wasn't the man who once needed her. I didn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, the same questions echoed in my mind. Why did he lie? Why did she betray me? Why am I the only one fighting for something that's already dead? By the time the sun rose, my heart felt swollen with a strange mix of anger, fear, and exhaustion. I wasn't sure Parker Agemain sat ko samna ka ponji wae nahi, but I had to. Running away wasn't an option anymore. I walked into the kitchen expecting silence, but he was already there, sitting at the table, staring at his phone like he was waiting for someone's message. He didn't even notice me. Typical. When he finally lifted his eyes, he froze for half a second, then quickly straightened. "Yo up," he said, voice casual, like nothing had happened. I took a deep breath. "We need to talk." His jaw tightened. "I already told you everything last night." "No," I said firmly. "You told me what was convenient. Now I want the truth." For a long moment, he didn't speak. Silence hung between us like a thick, suffocating fog. Then, without warning, he pushed his phone toward me. "Fine," he said. "Look." I stayed at the screen. There was a message thread. With her, the same woman I had suspected for months. And the worst part, the conversation wasn't flirty. It wasn't romantic. It wasn't even emotional. It was worse. It was familiar. The kind of familiarity that forms slowly, secretly, over jokes, late conversations, and shared frustrations. I didn't see passion. I saw comfort, and that hurt more. "You told her things you never told me," I whispered. He didn't deny it. "She understands me," he said quietly. My heart cracked. "And I don't." He closed his eyes, rubbing his forehead like I was exhausting him. "You used to," he said. "But now, everything with you feels heavy. It feels like I'm always failing." I felt like he punched me in the chest. "Because you're the one who changed," I said, voice trembling. "I kept trying. You kept running." He opened his mouth, then stopped, as if he wanted to argue but couldn't. "Did you cheat?" I asked. "No. Did you want to?" His silence was my answer. I stepped back like his silence slapped me. My legs wobbled, but I didn't fall. I wouldn't give him that satisfaction. "I was losing you," he whispered, almost to himself, and I didn't know how to stop it. "So you let someone else fill the space I was trying to hold together," I said, tears burning my eyes. He didn't move, didn't apologize, didn't beg, just stayed down at the table, like the truth was too heavy even for him to carry. And that's when I realized something tragic. He didn't love her. He didn't love me either. He just loved the version of himself that felt safe, admired, and unchallenged. And I wasn't feeding that version anymore. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I didn't break anything. I simply turned around and walked out. But the second I stepped outside, the weight hit me like a crashing wave. I wasn't just walking away from him. I was walking away from the girl who thought love could fix everything. I was walking away from the fantasy I had built for years. I was walking away from the version of me who tolerated pain in silence. My hands were shaking when my phone buzzed. It was her, my best friend, the only person I trusted. But when I saw her name, my stomach twisted. Had she known? Had she seen the signs I ignored? Had she kept quiet to protect me? I answered the call anyway. Her voice came through immediately, panicked. "Are you okay? I heard what happened." Of course she did. "I'm fine," I lied. "Come over," she insisted. "Don't be alone right now." I wanted to believe her. I wanted to trust her. But something inside me hesitated. Still, I agreed. Because loneliness, in moments like these, is dangerous. 20 minutes later, I stood at her door. She hugged me tight, too tight, as if afraid I would break. Then she pulled back, looked into my red, tired eyes, and whispered, "You deserve better." I almost cried again. But something in her living room caught my attention. A mug. A black, familiar-looking mug. The same mug he kept in his car. The one he said he lost 2 weeks ago. My breath froze. "Whose mug is that?" I asked. She stiffened. "Oh, it's old. Not mine actually. A friend left it, hey. A friend. A friend with the exact same mug and the exact same scratch on the handle." My heart dropped into my stomach. I walked toward it slowly, picked it up, and turned it over. His initials were carved under the base. She didn't even try to hide the panic in her eyes. "Wait, listen, this isn't what you think." I froze. My mind replayed every moment. Her sudden protective tone when talking about him. The way she defended him even when I was crying. How she always said, "Maybe you're overthinking." How she always knew too much about what he was doing. And then it hit me like a final, brutal puzzle piece snapping into place. He wasn't just talking to one woman behind my back. He was talking to her, too. Maybe not romantically, maybe not physically, but emotionally. Absolutely. My vision blurred. "You both," I whispered. "You both made me feel crazy." She grabbed my arm. "No, it wasn't like that." I pulled away. The betrayal felt like poison in my veins. "You were supposed to protect me," I said, voice breaking, "not help him hide." She covered her mouth, tears forming, but I didn't stay to hear whatever excuse she had. I walked out of her house the same way I walked out of his, with shaking hands, a shattered heart, and a painful, liberating clarity. As I reached the gate, my phone buzzed again. This time, it wasn't him. It wasn't her. It was an unknown number, a message that made my entire world tilt. And below it, a picture, a blurry picture of him, not with the woman I suspected, not with my best friend, but with someone else entirely, someone I didn't even know. My breath caught. Who was she? And why was a stranger texting me about him? My fingers hovered over the call button. For the first time, I wasn't scared of the truth. I was ready for it, no matter how ugly it was.